Good evening. Well, I had this thing done a couple weeks ago, and it's just taken me forever to figure out the best footage, whatever. Had a lot of little things you'll see as we go. A lot of bit of filling. This is by far probably my best video as far as start to finish, showing a little bit of everything. So, getting a little better at this stuff. Well, this is the gold leaf bowl. That's what we're calling it anyway. Not what it was intended for, but stunning. It came out stunning. So there's the resin, mixing resin, and obviously you see I am going super dark. Maybe a little bit too dark, and that probably caused some problems. Maybe that has something to do. I had a little issue with the resin this time. So it appeared to get hot. And I'm not sure if that was because of the volume I used on this pour. This was 1.5 gallons. It's rated up to 4 inches, and it was probably closer to 7, which done that many times in the past, and nothing's ever happened. I had no thermal cracking or anything, but I had massive little air bubbles and holes. It looked like like an ant colony, just tunnels all through this thing, and it took quite a bit to fill. I believe actually we were... Oh, wow. I bet close to 2 weeks, maybe a little bit over on the filling process. And I guess you learned a little bit that way or whatnot, but yeah. Anyway, we'll get going on here. So I'm getting rid of some air bubbles here, and like I said, it started to get hot, and I wasn't sure if that gold was going to be able to come out because I was trying to do a double pour or 2-color pour. So I was going to let it get a little warmer and thicken up at the same time before I added, because I was going for a totally different look than what we got. Needless to say, I absolutely love what we got. So maybe I'll revisit this later and try it again, but I'm calling this one a success on what we did get. So I ended up having to pour that black because it's starting to get thicker, and I was believing it's because of the volume that was in the bucket, not necessarily when I poured it in here, but I wanted to get it in here a little bit sooner rather than later because I wanted to try to get to soak in some of that wood. Unfortunately, this one would not fit inside my vacuum or pressure pot, so I'm just going to let it sit in there and just kind of soak up a little bit, but probably a little bit more resin. Could have put a waste block in the middle of that. Probably a bunch of different things I could have done. I could have used less resin, but I didn't. For whatever reason, I didn't. So, but, yeah, I'm checking my height here, and it did drop off. I bet you that wood probably soaked up a good 1/4 inch. So it did what we needed it to do. You can see all the air bubbles coming out of there. That wood's dry. I believe it sat in this state for probably 8 hours, and then I finally ended up pouring in. I actually kind of like to look down in that bucket right now with that little bit of gold flake that I put into it. Now, inserted all this gold. There was one tiny spot where I seen this gold. The rest of it kind of mixed in like the gold flake, I guess. Came out really cool. Not what I expected, but like I said, I absolutely loved it. Sometimes you get lucky on these. One thing with these resin pours is you don't know what you're getting. It acts different every time. It's so temperamental on ambient temperature, room. I mean, just so many things can go wrong. There's so many things are critical to this kind of stuff. And normally, like I said, we kind of do it in a clean room. This one I happened to just pour in the shop. I was getting ready to go on hitch for 5 days. So I figured I'd pour it and I just leave it in the shop. You know, it was a little cool. My stove was on for a couple of days while I was working on something else. And I try to get a project on my last day off, so when I get my first day off in 4 or 5 days, whatever it is, 6, and I got something to work on those days. And I threw this in there, and like I said, the pellet stove was on, so it was a little warmer in there, and I'm pretty sure that had quite a bit to do with how this resin acted like it did, getting a little thicker a little fast, but needless to say, it turned out fine. But anyway, then it got cool, so I don't know if that had something to do with it either. I don't know. I mean, I'd be curious if anybody watches this down the road or so. I'd be good on your thoughts. Please pass on. Still getting a little bit of air bubbles coming up through here. Yeah, I just like that. That's, once I seen that, I was like, I don't know. But you'll see when we hear, I don't know if this clip's long or not, but no, like I said, no thermal cracking, but you could tell on the sides, it definitely got hot. Definitely got hot. And little did I know, getting into that, all of those marks were problems. The bottom didn't bother me too bad. That was all wood in there. A lot of that's coming out anyway. Yeah, that was a pretty good hole there. Didn't realize at first, but I believe those holes went all the way through is what I ended up figuring. Or just a little, like I said, ant colony going through there, and I just kept filling, and it never dawned on me that we had bigger issues. Like I said, it wouldn't fit in my pressure pot or my vacuum chamber, because that's exactly what I would have done. I would have just threw some gold in there, hit it in the vacuum chamber, and let the machine do the work. But I went super dark on this resin. I guess with all the filling, massive, like I said, a ton of filling. I don't think we showed a lot of it, but anything from a pinhole to a golf ball size hole, and I bet you I lost 90% of them. By the time I was done putting the last coat of finish on it, I couldn't tell what 90% of them were. So definitely had a lot of growth on that, and that excites me a little bit because I'm actually getting a little better on that. I tend to get frustrated and just kind of say screw it, and I'll just put it on the wall of shame, or we'll just keep it around the house. But yeah, this thing moved rather quickly. This didn't stick around too long at all. I was kind of looking forward to it. I really kind of enjoyed it. It was a really nice piece. It's up there on probably my favorites list, but I don't think it's number one, but it's pretty close. Yeah, I'm not using any tailstock. This is my Jet 1236 lathe. I bought used about a year ago out in Utah, and I guess I was just so excited. It came with chucks and different pin kits and ornament kits, just a bunch of random stuff or whatever, and I get it back and I realize I don't even have a tool rest. I have the banjo, but not the rest itself, so I had to buy the rest. And I have been fighting the tailstock for, this is actually probably the first piece I've actually turned start to finish on this lathe. I've turned little things here and there. I did get it because you could turn the headstock outboard, so I could do large diameter platters and stuff, but it really didn't turn out what I needed it to do. I probably could have done a few extra things by putting a shelf on the bottom legs and adding a bunch of cement bags or sandbags or something for weight. And, I had probably a couple 100 pounds of wood on it, and I would think that'd be enough. But, well, I fixed that, and you should probably start seeing in the next video that I'm trying to edit now. But I'm having a little trouble with that one because I'm taking that off of a camcorder and putting that onto the computer. And if you know me, I'm kind of tech-retarded, so just bear with me. But I bought a Laguna 1836, so I have the 18-inch swing over the bed, and I got the extension so on the back end by the tailstock where I can go 36 inches swing comfortably. And we can go bigger than that if need be or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that 36 inches is plenty big enough. You can see some of the holes opening up, and this is probably the moment I'm like, well, I'm gonna have some work on this one. A lot of times you'll get stuff like that when you start shaving in and just kind of cutting in on it or whatever, and it's no big deal. You throw a little bit of art cast on it and you come back the next day and you clean it up and you're moving on. This one here, it just didn't want to move on. It was trying to, I guess, tell me what it wanted to look like, and ultimately it came out great. And it did alter, like I said, this was going to be a themed Golden Knights bowl after the Las Vegas hockey team won the Stanley Cup last year, and I was going to honor them with the bowl. And it changed, and I like the way it changed, like I said, once again, but it changed the shape also. This was going to be a very thick wall bowl, pretty square, I guess, maybe a little bit of flair to it, but pretty square and thick walled, and I was going to burn the logo with the laser in the bottom of it, and I was going to fill that with resin and clean that up. Well, didn't end up getting into that because I was chasing on the bottom of the side, I guess, of the bowl, down by the wood and the resin. You'll notice how it's kind of wavy, so I'm getting into both of them there right at the foot of it, and I was chasing a pretty large hole, and it ultimately changed the shape of it or whatever, and I just stood back and I was looking at it and kind of figuring out what I'm going to do, and I just went with it. I loved that look of it, so I took it a little bit more and just kind of ran with it, I guess. Yeah, one thing I did not do, and that's the reason for these videos, it kind of gives me a place to go look back, and I can kind of see my growth along the years or whatever. I've been doing turning, I guess it's probably been a little over 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. And like I said, I've already upgraded to the my dream lathe, I guess, over those 2.5 years of after research and watching and stuff like that. I just really fell in love with the Laguna. For one, the price, and two, all the accessories that I threw on it. You couldn't have touched it on a Powermatic or Robust or nothing like that without dropping some serious cash on it. Which still going to cost some serious cash with all the stuff I got with it, but half of what it could have been. But yeah, it just basically gives me something to look back on for, you know, I'm running into certain problems. Well, heck, you know, I remember I had that problem on that golf ball bowl, so I go back and look at the golf ball bowl. But well, anyway, it's just for my enjoyment, the grandkid, whoever. Like I said, just growth. I'm gonna try to get a little more consistent with it. The one thing I do struggle with is sometimes you just want to go in the shop and you just want to go in the shop. I don't want to have to worry about setting up tripods and video cameras, recording this, recording that, you know. So, yeah, we are on Facebook now, so go ahead and follow that page. That'd be wonderful. We'll do some giveaways coming up, and I would like a little more interaction, I guess. You know, let you guys design a bowl. I'll make it, and you kind of pick from some stuff I throw out there and see what we can do. You know, I'm surprised for not having a tailstock on this. I guess I was a tad nervous, not a lot. I've turned without a tailstock quite a bit on my smaller lathe that had the 10-inch swing. I've lost a few, yeah, but I guess I've done it more times than I should. I definitely won't do that going in the future because the larger swing is because I want to do larger projects, want to get into large vases, hollow forms, just stuff like that, flower pots, stuff like that. So obviously that size and weight is going to increase substantially. So I'll make sure and that tailstock has, I believe it was a 4.5 inch quill to it. So yeah, I can keep the base of the tailstock clear out of the way. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting on that. And actually, as I'm doing this video here, I've already turned I maxed out that Laguna on a platter, and oh man, night and day difference compared to the other two lathes that I have. Night and day. And here's some of the holes that we're dealing with. Don't make fun of me. You do what you got to do to try to hold resin. I tried to give it enough reservoir to kind of pull in there, and it worked, I guess. I mean, I had one little solo cup that kind of leaked, and yeah, I may have went a little overboard on the hot glue, but last thing I want to do is have a leak. But yeah, I think I had one on the spring, a tiny leak. Not bad, nothing. That's fine. And this is art cast that I'm putting in there, and that takes anywhere from, I guess, 12 to 24 hours or whatever. I did go out the next day, and I turned it back off and just discovered more, because this was the start of about 2.5 weeks of filling here. I was pretty impressed how I was able to match the color. Like I said, about 90% of them I wasn't able to find anymore by looking at it, and I've tried. That's one of my things, is I overly picky from what my wife and my friends and stuff say, is I see the flaws that I have in there, and this one, there's a few, but not real noticeable. You can see kind of some of that gold flake in there, and yeah, it's really nice. One thing about this, and I don't know if it was the dark resin or not, this was very, very difficult to get a decent picture of. Very difficult. I've tried just every background, different lighting sources, natural light. Yeah, it was, I guess the Laguna lathe that I had, I got 2 light plants installed on it, and those actually did the best, I would say. And they're in the very tail end of this at some point, but I guess I'm just going to let you stare at a bowl that ain't doing nothing. Told you I wasn't really good at this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think there was 5, maybe. Large ones I went right after. A lot of the smaller ones I wasn't going to worry about. I was just going to kind of hit with a UV resin or CA glue right before after I flipped it so I could true it up, which I didn't do, but we'll get into that later. Yeah, I think right there you can see on your left or your right hand side, that was that little pinhole that opened up. I was able to seal it back off. It was not that big of a deal, but it's probably what I was working on. Excuse me. guess I could have cut a lot of this clip out. Oh well. But I guess let's start a conversation. If anybody out here that watches this down the road, whenever, hopefully I get it figured out before you comment. But UV resin, it's kind of new to me, and I believe it's even new to the market for the most part. I've used it, had great success. I believe on the golf ball bowl. Absolutely wonderful success. This bowl did not. And only thing I can think of is I was able to cure the outside shell, but nothing, the UV light did not penetrate just beyond the shell. And I'm wondering if that's because of the pigment. That's the only thing I can think of is the pigment, because I believe manufacturer was right around 3 to 5 minutes under the UV light, and I went from 5 to 7, 5 to 8 minutes or so. Probably even longer on some of them. I just turned it on and walked away and did something else for a little bit, you know, and it did not penetrate. And I'm leaning towards the pigment. So like I said, if anybody has any experience with it and you know the answer to that and you can pass it on, please do educate me. It'd make life a little easier going down the road, because it is a great tool. It absolutely is. And I don't know if it was just because of the black. I know the golf ball bowl, I was doing it with green, and heck, it turned out beautiful, and it worked. So maybe I was a little bit thinner on the pigment, I'm not sure. But yeah, we're just kind of cutting those little reservoirs back off here. I was actually thinking about putting a lid on this, making it a little box or so, but I went away from it. Once I ended up switching to putting that gold leaf inlay on the rim and a couple spots on the side, on the inside, I think one tiny one on the outside or whatever, I went away from the lid. I didn't want to take away from the gold leaf, the rim. That was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I am really into inlays right now. I love doing inlays. I actually have a bunch of black walnut platters getting ready to come out here pretty soon. I've been processing them, getting them all ready, because I'm just going to do a crap load of them all at the same time. I really like the inlays, but I do like the gold leaf look beautiful. I would do that again. But I like the natural materials, resources, I guess, shells and stones, stuff like that. I just kind of like putting back in. Yeah, just came back to say hi. This is the UV resin I was using. Like I said, I put pigment in it because I didn't want clear. I don't know if you would have seen it or you wouldn't see it. Like I said, it's fairly new to me. I bet if I would have done that little thing clear and it would have penetrated it, I probably wouldn't even have seen it. There would have been so much detail or pulling me to a different direction. I probably never would have seen it. Or maybe I should try that. But when you poke so much money into a project like that, I'd hate to have one clear hole that you can see and just ruin that. The ordinary Joe probably picked it up and would never see it, but I would know it's there and it would drive me crazy. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I guess it's not the best footage here, but I was trying to poke it down in there. I was trying to actually see how deep it was, and this is actually the point where I realized we had a problem, because I put that toothpick and it went all the way, it never stopped. So I was like, uh-oh. That's when I knew I had a problem. But I really wasn't too worried about it at the same time. I was just going to keep plucking along and Because once I core it out, then I just got the sidewalls that I'm basically dealing with, and I can deal with it there. So that was my plan, and I moved forward with it. It just turned into a pain in the butt for sure. I actually didn't record a lot of it because I was getting a little frustrated with it. Like I said, with my work schedule, I mean, it's not bad working 6 months a year, but when you work 5 days and then you get off for 4 days, 5 days, it's a lot of time. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, but doing this kind of stuff, it takes time. Just trying to play that schedule and that time frame, it's kind of hard sometimes. Resin, the longer it sits, the harder it gets for me anyway, from what I've noticed. And at the same time, it can be hard as a stone, and in a blink of an eye, fragile as glass. Very, very, I don't know the word I'm trying to look for with that, but it's just, don't know what's going to happen. Just take it easy from what I learned when I'm cutting resin. I've shattered a couple things, and some stuff I can just beat the crap out of, or I had to beat the crap out of it and just power through it, and it works fine. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if the UV resin or the light's supposed to be that close to it or not, but it's what I did. I figured closer, stronger. I don't know. Like I said, whoever watches this, if you know anything about that stuff, please educate me. I would appreciate it. You can see as long as I was doing that, it just drank it up. Not sure where it was ever going. Yeah, that thing, it would just keep going. That's crazy. Yeah, if I can figure this UV resin out, that'd be nice. I guess I'll do a little small project and just kind of go clear on something dark like that. Maybe I'll try that. Little did I know, all of this work was for nothing. So you'll see once we get done with the filling here, I put it on a chuck, which I flipped it over. It was mounted on the top end, and I I'll true it up a little bit, clean it up, and then I'll flip it over. Well, I broke the cardinal rule if I did not true it back up, and I'm not sure what I was thinking or so. It didn't ultimately, to the end, it did not hurt me. But it very well could have. I could have lost this on just a no-brainer. But when you flip something, is never going to be true. Like once I had it mounted on the right side there and I actually flipped it over and put it on the left side on the bottom, it's never going to be true. So yeah, I've always done it. I'm not really sure why I didn't on this one. I don't know if I got distracted. I had my son and family in town, and maybe I just got to talking and just distracted. I don't know, but either way, I did not do it, and it didn't hurt me, but it very well could have. So I guess I was blessed in the end. It didn't. Here I am putting some CA in here. Got just about the shape I wanted, and I just wanted to seal the outside so I could move on to the inside. I didn't want to have to do repairs. As I was coring, I figured I would have to on the inside, but I didn't want to go back to the outside. I wanted the outside to be done, and that's the part that kind of didn't hurt me because I didn't true it up, because I put the inlay in before I trued it up, and that was one of the reasons it could have hurt me, is I could have lost half the inlay if it was really off. And two, I could have opened up another hole by trimming some of this stuff off. But I'm doing my CA here in layers because obviously the UV wasn't working, and I would think in this UV would be ideal, but I just wasn't able to pull it off. So like I said, after a couple weeks of this, you just kind of just move on, try a different tactic or so. But ultimately, we did end up getting this. We filled it all out, and the inside opened up right at the very end, opened up to a pretty large cavity, and that's where another inlay went into, and you'll see that here. And I didn't get any video of the inlay because my wife did that for me, and she has a thing about being on camera. Even if it's just her hands, she doesn't want it. But we opened up that big cavity, and I was going to fill it with resin. And my daughter-in-law, Sydney, she suggested to put the gold leaf in it. And I'm so glad that she did, because I didn't think of it. And just a neat little detail to it, and it kind of stands out. And it's wonderful. I really liked it. It was a great suggestion, even if it was Sydney. Just very light cuts with the scraper here, the nose scraper, just trying to get it fairly smooth. And like I said, I'm not sure, but I went right into sanding. I put sanding sealer on the wood, and I don't know if I don't think I put a coat of finish, because I did all the finish at the same time. But I don't know why I did all that work. Normally you'd have to flip it and go ahead and true it. So it was all for nothing. But it's all right. Just practice, right? So I was playing around with some of these camera angles or whatever. I got a nice new tripod that this one was actually being filmed on, and I like the advantage of it. I believe it gets 8 foot tall, so I can get right on top, this, that, whatever. And I was just playing around with it. Well, some of them look good, some of them don't, but this one here, it was on the top, but you're not even seeing half the stuff I'm cutting. But play around. That platter that I did with that camcorder on that tripod looks a lot better. Plus the video quality is a lot better and everything. It's just having a hard time figuring out how to process that, I guess is the term. I got it on the laptop, and I have a editing thing, but that is not my cup of tea, and I'm struggling a little bit. I have about 3 hours of footage, and I'm unable to figure out how to shrink it down. So, and I just noticed here, we're already at 35 minutes, and I bet you we still got another 20 minutes here, so this is going to be actually a really long video. I apologize for that. Hopefully we stick around. Couple tiny little spots, but I'm going to move forward with it at this point. Very careful right there at that wood and that resin seam. You'll notice that wood it's wavy from the way I put it in there, and the wood is a lot softer than the resin at this point, because we are probably week 3 now, and all of the other stuff, that deep pour resin, it's about a 3 to 5 day cure. And I've learned if I go on hitch for a 5-day hitch and I pour it at the last minute before I go to work, I can come out of work and it is still, it's hard, it's set, but it's on the softer side, and it cuts so much nicer. It doesn't move on me and shrink and grow and stuff like that after cutting it and stuff. And it's just a lot easier to work with. At this point, coming into 3 weeks, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard, and you can get a good catch, I guess, going from the wood into the resin. This is a new tool I'm working on right now. That's the Hercules. I believe I ordered it, and I believe it just came in, and I just went right for it. I should have started working with it on a different project or a little waste block or something, just to kind of learn the way it acts and stuff like that. It's carbide, but the way it's nosed down and everything, it actually turns more like a traditional tool, which is really cool. I'm really excited to move forward with that. Did use it all the way on the platter. Worked really nice. Very, very pleased. There's another fill. It just don't end. Got a lot of experience on filling on this project here for sure. But there's your foot of the bowl. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I guess it's not hard to see. It's just kind of understand. But that's the very bottom of it, and that's what was the result of going after that big hole that I had there, the cavity or whatnot. And I actually just love that swept back foot, and that's where the project really did change in my head of where I was going to go. And actually cutting that rim for the inlay on all resin that was that hard, that was nerve-wracking to say the least. I bet you I took my parting tool apart and I sharpened that carbide for, I bet you, a half hour, 45 minutes before I started cutting that rim out for the inlay. It was, I don't know if I would have, I guess I pulled it off. I would definitely do it again. I didn't learn a lesson not to, but it added a little detail to it. I loved it. It came out just wonderful. I can't say it enough. Like I said, it didn't stick around long, and I wish it would have, but I guess that's the joy of it. I made it, and I can always make it again if I wanted to. Just doing one final little clean cut here. Just trying to get to the point where I can absolutely flip it and actually feel like I'm making progress. You know, my grandson cleans my shop for me, and he will get done cleaning it, and I will be in the middle of start a project, turn, process, whatever, and he'll come outside and he'll come in that shop and he just gives me that look like, you've got to be kidding me. This stuff does make a mess. Some of you guys have seen some pictures and stuff. It just will destroy a shop. It gets everywhere. Little resin ribbons. But hey, it only cost me like $5 a week. It was a good deal for me. believe I'm using a negative rake right here. It is, negative rake is just less aggressive in my eyes. I'm sure it is. It's just I'm a little better off using that negative rake. I don't get so many catches. Carbide is the way to go on these resin pieces, for sure. I'm not that good. Like I said, I've only been turning for a little over 2 years, and traditional tools take a little bit of time to practice, and I practice. I get impatient at the same time. Look at there, more holes. Well, I did get to the point where I flip it over and we're going to start hollowing it out.
Let me know if you see. Yeah. There you go.
Going up in the Forester bits here, it saves you quite a bit of time. My air compressor actually took a shit right before this. Me and my son were out there and I blew it. The hose blew up. It was middle of the night. Couldn't actually go into town. Live in a small town. There was nowhere open. If we were in a bigger city, I probably would have ran down to the hardware store and grabbed one, but yeah, so normally I would have my air nozzle and my air chuck, whatever, and I'd blow that crap out instead of putting my hand in there. But the nice part is my son was in town and he was out there with me, and he's taking a liking to this. He likes it. I believe he made like 5 pins or something. He actually pretty good at it, but I broke the screws in this, and I went ahead and tasked him on digging them out. And I think I only threw a couple minutes of footage in it, or a minute or whatever, 30 seconds, whatnot. But he dug on them things for a good 45 minutes trying to get those screws out of there. I've done that a few times, and the one time I'm like, I'll just cut them out, it's not a big deal. Well, they will destroy a carbide tip. Screws absolutely will. And here he is right here. I learned if you drill it out like he did on that right there, you can get a needle nose in there or some screwdriver, and you can kind of just work it loose and get it out of there. But yeah, he enjoyed it. He just went to town. And you see, I put the inlay in it. That's what I was talking about. And now you're going to see me true up the outside because I realized, oh shit, it's wobbling. So I did attempt to re-put it on a chuck a couple times, seeing if I could get a little bit out of it. And I was able to get quite a bit out of it, a little bit of movement out anyway. So I was like, well, I'm just going to take some really light cuts and I'm going to true it up a little bit. And I did get lucky, like I said, about 1,000 times already. And I was very pleased that I did, because right around now I was sweating it a little bit. Put that much time in and I did not want to lose it. One catch right now would absolutely be just horrible. And once again, I appreciate you sticking around. I know it's a long video. My ideal time is anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, I guess. is what I would like to do. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes, but looks like we're going to be close to an hour. But this is the first time that I got all that footage. Normally I just show a little bit of cutting in the finished product on the other ones, a little bit of fill here and there. And I was trying to get a little better, which I did, so I just need to learn how to shrink it down a little bit more. Let me know what parts you did like, what parts you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you don't want to see as much of. I know when I watch some turning videos, I like a lot of this stuff because I just, oh, he's leaning that over, you know. And it's one thing with the Hercules, I can turn that Hercules on its side a little bit. Like I said, it turns like a traditional tool, and this right here, I'm just kind of flat on this. This is a negative rake anyway. I'm not trying to get really aggressive with it. My foot is bad. My son's on the other lathe behind me, and it's kind of rocking all over the place. Did a little bit different finish on this one for the first time. And mixed results, I guess. I sanded with the drill. That's the first change. I've always hand sanded. And the little disc on the drill, it actually saved a lot of time. I did wet sand. Under a large resin, I would wet sand that resin just to get all the fine scratches out. But I buffed that this time with Triple E, and that, yeah, I'll definitely use that again for sure. Absolutely, without a doubt. The sanding on the drill, I would probably do that from here on out on larger projects for sure. You can see that big hole in the bottom there on the inside. I believe that might have been the one that opened up a little bit more, and I believe that's the one that has the gold leaf inlay. I'm not quite sure. I would imagine so. That was a pretty good size hole. I'm going to true up the inside a little bit. But definitely I will do the buffing and the drill sanding again. I think on the sanding, I was using a 2-inch disc, and I would like to maybe go to a 3-inch, maybe like a dimple disc maybe with little flaps, I guess, so it'll work better around these bends and corners and stuff like that. So I've actually already found some. I haven't bought them yet or ordered them. I'll get them coming. I believe I sanded from 80 grit to 800. Normally I would stop at 800, and then I would start getting into my wet sand at 1,000, 12, 15, and 2,000, somewhere in there. I don't know. I have the capability, I believe I can sand up to 12,000 grit, but I've only done that on a few different things. I really don't notice it too much.
When they come out like that?
After getting into those higher ones, those higher grits, I really haven't noticed the difference too much, but there has been a few things I did use it on, and it did turn out real nice too. But yeah, that buffing absolutely eliminated a lot of that stuff. It took all those hair little scratches out.
It sucks with wood and resin. It really sucks. The wood's a lot softer than the resin. It's completely different.
If you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button, please. I would appreciate it. Make me feel good. Feel like I'm doing something nice, something right. Then keep going. There's that inlay in there. I'll make sure I didn't cut through it. I believe this sidewalls on this were still, I was going for a 1/2 inch. I think I was just shy of a 1/2 inch, which I was happy with that. So I want to try to do thicker walls. I like that look a little bit better, thicker walls. So not a smaller projects like my other lathes that I was doing for the first couple of years. Thicker walls, it worked, but it didn't work. It just shrunk the project down so much on the inside. So yeah, that's a 2-inch deal, and like I said, I think I'm gonna go to a 3-inch and a different type of paper. Need to also get an extension. I can keep the drill outside the bowl. But anyway, I'll quit blabbling and I will let you just finish the video and just leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Thank you.